What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and today, as you can probably tell by the background, I am out in Utah to do some off-roading with this, the 2024 Jeep Wrangler. This is the first major refresh that the JL generation Jeep Wrangler has gotten, and it is pretty big. I mean, it's definitely the same Wrangler underneath, but there are a lot of improvements that have been done to some of the powertrains, particularly the hybrid 4xe, and to the exterior and to the interior. So let's go ahead and dive on in. I just want to let you know that this walk around that I'm about to do is with the Rubicon 392 model. I'm also going to try and film a two-door Willys so that you can kind of see the difference between like a super duper top trim and sort of a lower end trim. So let's go ahead and talk about the front end first, where we've got this new grille for 2024. They've changed it, so as you can see, if I get up close to it, there is more cooling, more open area. Gotta cool a big engine like this. This is a 6.4 liter Hemi V8. They've also managed to kind of squish it vertically, and they have a new front bumper here, which, as you can see, you can now get a worn winch built in to the Wrangler. This is a feature that Wrangler owners have been begging for years. You used to have to turn to the aftermarket, but now you can go ahead and get a worn winch built into your Wrangler, which I think is a really cool feature. Now, this being the 392 model, we are riding on the Extreme Recon package. That is a 35-inch tire. It is absolutely massive. I love the beadlock style, or beadlock capable wheels that you get on the 392 as well. And if you'll notice, that center cap has like an original Willys Jeep on it, which is really cool. The tire sizes range 32 inches on the low end. If you get a regular Rubicon or the Willys, you're gonna upgrade to a 33-inch tire, and then we have the 35s on this Rubicon 392 model as well. There are 10 different all-new wheel patterns on this car as well, so something that is worth noting. This is the 4-door unlimited. It's the only way that you can get a Rubicon 392. It's also the only way that you can get the plug-in hybrid 4xe model. If you want a 2-door Wrangler, which, yes, they do sell a 2-door Wrangler. I know a lot of people really don't get the 2-door Wrangler anymore. You're going to have to get the gas engine. I really do like this bright red color. I think it works really well, especially when you see what's inside of this 392 model. And while I have the 392 here, let me show you the back seat. The vast majority of Wrangler sales, I believe it's something like 85 or 90%, are going to be this 4-door model. People just love the practicality versus getting the 2-door. So you do have 5 seats back here. Decent amount of legroom, although the Wrangler is not like the best configuration possible for having the most rear legroom or trunk space, but I have a decent amount of legroom back here. I do have my own air vents, window controls, and I have USB ports and a 110 outlet, so there is a decent amount of amenities. You've got the speakers right here. I actually do like the speaker systems in Wranglers, to be honest, so it is a usable back seat that you can put kids into. And then the other reason why I think so many people gravitate towards this 4-door unlimited model is the trunk space. You can see there is a decent amount of space in here. You've got the subwoofer for your Alpine stereo here. On the 2-door model, which I'm about to show you, there definitely is not as much space. All right, so now let's go ahead and hop inside the 392. So for the 2024 model year, the 392 is gonna have these bright red leather seats. It's similar to what you got on last year's 20th anniversary model, but a little bit different in terms of color and materials. Here you see you have bright red Rubicon 392 stitch in. These are heated seats as well, and for the first time ever on a Jeep Wrangler, you get power adjustable seats with power lumbar. Now, Jeep was very keen to let me know that this is waterproof. So even if you're waterfording and the water is up to here, this will not get ruined by the water, and the seat will still operate via power. So kind of nice to have for the first time ever. Although something that I noticed is when you shut the door, there's not a big gap between the actual seat controls and the door. So it is a little weird to kind of shove your hand in there to adjust it, but I'm still going to go ahead and compliment Jeep because that is a nice addition here. All right, let's hop on in. And the additions to the cabin do not stop there. Let's go ahead and start it up. The biggest change for the 2024 model year is the inclusion of this new 12.3-inch touchscreen with Uconnect 5. So this is the latest system from Stellantis. You get wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, Alexa integration, things that were not available on that smaller 8-inch screen with Uconnect 4. It is a great system. I love how big and wide it is. It's super nice. We've got lots of cool off-roading toys if we come here under our apps too. Under the off-roading pages, we all know and love this from the Jeep Wrangler, but now it is on a bigger, nicer, more accessible screen. You can even take this area off up here and you can mount like a big bar here. So if you want to have a phone mount, GoPro mount, anything like that, Jeep integrated that into the dashboard already for you. Speaking of the dashboard, the air vents are a little bit different. They used to be this style here in the middle, but they had to change that due to the size of the big screen. I much prefer these. I think they're a little bit easier to grab and point versus those. And we used to have like a red dash on 392. Now you have this black perforated dash with the red stitching. I happen to really like this look. I think it's better than having so much red. We've got our typical analog gauges on either side with a digital screen in the middle, and we've got our kind of chunky steering wheel with paddle shifters here on the 392 model. I don't think that lower Wrangler models are going to have this same steering wheel. I believe this is exclusive to the 392. We also have, I should mention, in the Trails off-road nav system, so we have like built-in navigation for all of the trails that you're going to do. It is a really cool system. So if you don't know where you're going, this can kind of guide you around. It can help you find trails on your vacation, which is really nice. Down here we have our off-road controls. There are 4 different 4x4 systems depending on which Wrangler you get. You can get the Command Track, the Rock Track, which are both part-time systems. You can get the Rock Track full-time system or the Select Track, which is what you're going to get on the Rubicon models, including this Rubicon 392. And the rest of the dash is pretty much the same. There aren't too many changes to speak of. I should mention that there is a little bit more sound insulation in here. They even got rid of, you don't have the antenna anymore for the radio. It's built in to the windshield. All of that is to help reduce sound. We'll talk about it when I get out on the road, whether or not those changes actually make a big difference. And just like before, there are a ton of different roof options. You can get a soft top that you just kind of flick back. You can get the hard top with removable panels, or you can get this Sky One Touch roof. You just push a button and it's going to go ahead and retract back. Let me see if I can get you a good view of kind of how that's accordioning. How do you say that? Accordion, but accordioning, you know what I mean. Back. I happen to really like this roof because it's just so easy. Oh no, it's raining. You just push a button and it'll automatically close, and you can do that on the move. So this is a roof that I very much like. And as promised, I'm also going to do a walk around of the 2-door Wrangler. This is actually the first time I've been able to review a 2-door Wrangler. This is the Willys trim, which is sort of a lower end, more affordable off-roader. Compared to the Rubicon, this is a lot more affordable. You still get 33-inch tires, BF Goodrich tires, and you get front and rear locking diffs on the Willys. So this is definitely a great way to go if you're just looking for bare bones simplicity and you plan to do a lot of off-roading. Obviously, this is a lot smaller, meaning it is a little bit less practical. I love the Willys in this sort of dark green color. We've got these interesting like cage doors here. You can get these on any Wrangler, so these do not come standard here on the Willys. These are an accessory. We've got these nice cloth seats. I actually really like this cloth. It is very thick, very durable. It's also got this kind of nice gold stitching on it here. We still have our big 12.3-inch screen, and I really like this fabric here on the dash. That is a nice premium touch, even though this is a more affordable Wrangler. You can go ahead and pull these seats up. I can show you the back seat. You only get 2 seats there in the back instead of 3 like you do on the 4-door model, and getting into them is obviously a little bit more tricky than on the 4-door model where you have doors. And then we'll negotiate this big sort of rock that they've parked it on here. And I can show you that the trunk space, definitely not as practical as the Unlimited model, which is why so many people opt for the 4-door version of the Wrangler. All right, so now let's get the 2024 Wrangler out on the road. We're first going to drive the Wrangler on-road, and then because Jeep flew us all the way out to Utah, we're gonna do some off-roading as well. But I think that the on-road stuff is equally as important. I know this is an off-road vehicle, but you're going to be spending a lot of time with it on road. So let's find out whether or not the improvements to this 2024 Wrangler are substantial and whether or not you should rush out to buy one based on these changes. So Jeep poured a lot of information into the presentation this morning, and they took as many efforts as they could to try and refine the drive experience for this 2024 Wrangler. We're talking acoustic glass, we're talking more foam around the windshield, we're talking more sound insulation, at least on some of the upper models. Now Jeep says that all of these changes result in anywhere from like a 2 decibel to a 5 decibel reduction in noise in this cabin. And you know, that sounds pretty good. Like, oh wow, they've actually made the Jeep a little bit quieter. So is this now a luxurious, you know, quiet, great place to spend a lot of time on a highway trip? No. No, sorry. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even with all of those changes, it still gets pretty darn loud in here. With the roof off, with it up, no matter what you have. I'm gonna go ahead and get onto the main road here. Let's pick up some speed. You can hear significant wind noise starting to build up in here. Is it quieter than before? Yeah, definitely. I'd probably have to drive them back to back to know for sure. But definitely still not like a quiet, refined experience in here with the one touch power roof that we have here. I don't know that the hardtop roof would necessarily be a lot more quiet. Now, what Jeep does say is they've added, I believe it's 7 mics around the cabin now for this Bluetooth system. So I did have a couple of Bluetooth calls during my drive here in Utah, and with the roof closed, people did say that the noise did seem a little bit less than in past Wranglers. With it open, they could definitely hear the wind noise. So definitely not a perfect reduction in sound, but it's a little bit better than past Wranglers, where you kind of have to scream for the person on the other end to hear you properly. And now let's talk about the engines that you can get in the Wrangler. The one that I'm driving is the 392, the big boy, 6.4 liter V8 engine, 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. Jeep says you can do 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. We've got our loud button. I'm gonna go ahead and push that for the exhaust. We've got a pretty straight road here. I'm gonna go ahead and slap it into manual mode just for full effect, and let's see what the 392 can do. Oh boy. If that doesn't put the biggest stupid grin on your face, then I don't know what will. I just burned a tanker full of fuel just in that acceleration run alone. I gotta do it again. Oh my God. Now that noise, that makes bald eagles proud. That is an American noise right there. Whew. It definitely doesn't feel like the fastest experience for having 470 horsepower. This is still a very big car, but this gets off the line way better than any other Wrangler you can buy. The other Wranglers are nowhere near 4.5 seconds to 60. You can still get the 3.5 liter Pentastar V6. That's going to be your base engine, 285 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. Now that one you can get with an 8-speed automatic. That is the only engine available that you can still get with a 6-speed manual. I was kind of keen to drive one since I've never driven a manual Wrangler. Unfortunately, they did not bring one out to this drive event for me to test. I've heard it's definitely not the best manual, but it is nice that Jeep still offers it. You can also upgrade to a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It actually has less power, 270 horsepower, but it's got more torque, 295 pound-feet. I actually prefer that engine a little bit more than the V6, even though it has less power, it has a little bit more torque, so it feels a little bit more gutsy. And that is basically your options with the gasoline engine. We'll talk a little bit about the 4xe in just a minute, but I'll finish up on talking about how the Wrangler drives, because crucially, they haven't really changed all that much in terms of the driving experience. On-road, we still have our reciprocating ball steering that you have to do quite a bit of movement with when you're on the highway. You still have, you know, a pretty decent ride. It definitely jounces you over some big bumps, but especially on a Rubicon 392 like this, on 35-inch tires, you don't really have to slow for speed bumps. It doesn't like jolt you out or anything like that. And I've already talked to you enough about the cabin noise. So if you liked the Wrangler experience before, it is a little bit more refined than it previously was, but they have not drastically altered the experience. All right, so now I've hopped out of the Wrangler 392 Rubicon and into pretty much the solar opposite version of the Wrangler that you can get. This is a 4xe high altitude. So the high altitude is a trim that you can only get on the plug-in hybrid 4xe version of the Wrangler. And unlike the Rubicon, this one is very much oriented for road use. We've got much more road-oriented tires, so you can already tell that the ride is better on the road. Less bumpy, less jarring, less road noise. You could definitely hear the howl from those off-road tires. And in this high altitude model, I can definitely feel a lot more of the effects of all of that sound deadening that Jeep has done here for the 2024 model year. So I was a little quick to point out that Jeep's changes weren't really all that significant, but most of the Wranglers that I've ever reviewed are Rubicons. You know, they're very off-roading, and I really have not spent a lot of time in a high altitude model like this. And I know some people are going to leave comments saying, oh, the high altitude isn't a real Jeep. Oh, look at those tires. They look wimpy. But I can just tell you that there is a noticeable difference, especially at low speeds, in the road noise. As I start to get up to speed, yeah, there's going to be some road noise, but I do think that this is significantly more livable on the road if you really aren't planning to do any off-roading. And now let's talk about the powertrain itself, the 4xe. I've driven this drivetrain before. It's really quite great. It's why 38% of Wrangler owners are now opting to go with a plug-in hybrid. This is actually the best-selling plug-in hybrid vehicle in America, which is mind-blowing when you kind of think about it. And it's a pretty good drivetrain. So we've got a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, the same one that actually goes in the gas-only model. Only now we've got a 17 kilowatt-hour battery pack and an electric motor. So with the electric motor, you now have 375 horsepower, so this is the second most powerful Wrangler outside of the 392, and it actually matches the 392 on torque with 470 pound-feet. Now, the 4xe is definitely not as quick as the 392. I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down. Whew! I mean, it definitely accelerates. Not as quick, definitely not as loud as the 392, but next to the 392, this thing has a really good amount of get up and go because you have that torque from the electric motor. And speaking of the electric motor, because this is a plug-in hybrid and you have a 17 kilowatt hour battery, you can go about 21 miles on electric power alone, which is really nice. Now, unfortunately, let's see, if I go ahead and put it into electric mode, I've charged it up a little bit more. When I first got in this vehicle, it did not have enough electricity to go on electric only mode, but now I have enough and I can just kind of cruise on electric power alone. It's definitely not fast in this mode, and if you go full throttle, it's gonna wanna kick on the engine, but I love off-roading in silence. It's really nice. You can kind of hear the tires do their thing as you're off-roading. If you're going to like a beautiful national park or something like that, you can go ahead and shut the engine off and just enjoy the peace of nature. I really like that. And there are 3 different ways that you can drive this. You've got hybrid mode, which is gonna kind of use the battery up until it runs out in culmination with the engine. If you give it more throttle, you can tell it, I want to just use electric only, and it's not going to kick on the gas engine at all. And then you have the e-save mode, which is going to do one of 2 things. It can either save the battery and not deplete it so that you can use it later, or it'll actually use the 4-cylinder engine as a generator and regenerate electricity for your later use. And there are 2 other improvements that Jeep has made to this 4xe system for the 2024 model year. The first is the brake regen. It doesn't feel any stronger, but Jeep says that they are now able to recuperate a little bit more energy when you coast or when you use the brakes, which is quite nice. And it now offers bi-directional charging, so you can get this little box that comes with the upper trims of the 4xe, and you can use it to power a TV, a campsite. Maybe if you're trapped in a hurricane, you can use it to power your whole house. And it can use both the 17 kilowatt hour battery and use the gas engine to act as a generator, which I think is a really nice addition. That's gonna wrap up our time with the 2024 Jeep Wrangler. Pricing for the new Wrangler starts at just under 32 grand for a 2-door V6 model, so it is rather affordable to get into an entry-level Wrangler, but it does go way up from there. You can spend about $87,000 starting on a Rubicon 392, and if you load one of those up with options, you can get the Wrangler over 100 grand. So there is really something for everybody, and you can spend what you want to spend, whether you have a small budget or a big one. I really like the changes that Jeep has done for the 2024 model year. They've added more capability. They've added the winch, which is a much requested feature. They have made the Wrangler a little bit more comfortable. I like some of the luxury features. I like that they tried to make it feel a little bit more refined, and I love that new 12.3-inch infotainment system. I hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2024 Jeep Wrangler. Be sure to read my full review over at carbuzz.com, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.